Good evening and welcome to BCN News. Salaries of public servants are most likely to be slashed by the government in the near future. This is a consideration by the Niue government as part of austerity measures to curtail spending during this COVID-19 pandemic. Currently, Niue's public servants are being paid 5 days but are only working a 4-day week. The government is now looking into reducing salaries to a 4-day payment. Any reduction in salary will have flow-on effects as government is the largest employer on the island, impacting the private sector, and consumer confidence will most likely drop. Another consideration by the government is to increase the Niue consumption tax and impose charges on services offered by the government that are currently free, such as the child daycare center known as Crash. The Finance Secretary Doreen Siatanga revealed this while presenting on the impact of COVID-19 on government's revenue at a packed mass COVID-19 Communication workshop on Friday, July 17th, hosted by the Broadcasting Corporation of Niue. Siatanga said these are some recommended considerations that the government has to make and for Cabinet to decide in order for the government to meet its operational costs. The Finance Secretary stated the ratio is based on the $31 million expenditure, deficit budget, personnel and welfare 60% to operations 40%. Based on revenue estimates, $25 million, personnel and welfare 72% and 28% operations. A balanced budget will be $25 million revenue and $25 million expenditure. The total national budget estimates for 2020 to 2021 is $32,504,000. The estimated total recurrent expenditure is $31,082,000. The estimated total recurrent revenue is $25,270,000. The budget deficit is $7,234,000. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinta Ardern has conveyed the New Zealand government's condolences on the passing of the late Sir Toke Talangi. Jacinta Ardern spoke during the sitting of the Parliament session yesterday.
Whakalofilahi atu. We take this opportunity to convey our deep sympathy to the family of the Honourable Sir Toke Talangi and to the people of Niue. Sir Toke passed away on 15 July in Niue, aged 69. He was first elected to Niue's Assembly in 1999 and in 2008 was elected the Premier of Niue, serving 4 terms until May 2020. Within weeks of taking office in 2008, he took up the chair of the Pacific Island Forum and across the years became an elder statesman of the Pacific, as well as a great friend to New Zealand. Sir Toke will be remembered for his lifelong commitment to safeguarding Niue's future security and prosperity, as demonstrated by his steadfast championing of sustainable economic development, education, and the protection of Niue's taonga. In 2017, he was appointed a Knight Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit in recognition of his many years of service to Niue and to the realm. Sir Toke will be laid to rest on Monday, 27th of July, and our thoughts are with Lady Talangi, the extended Talangi family, the people of his village of Alofi, and with all Niueans, wherever they may be. Mō nuia iho, e whonga ki he koutua he atua.
Other members of Parliament also paid tribute to the late Sir Toke Talangi.
Speaking on behalf of the National Party, we join with the New Zealand Parliament in giving our condolences and sympathies to Lady Emeline and also the Talangi family. Whakalofalahi atu ki he motu te Niue. Whakarorai atu ki Lady Fafita Talangi moi whanau. Lahi e momoko he e loa mai. Ko oki e matua he motu a Niue. Honourable Sir Toke Tufukia Talangi. Manuina e whenonga matua kia whakamoania he atua a matolu osi.
Speaker, as Foreign Minister, we'd like to express our sympathy and extend our condolences to the people of Niue regarding the passing of Sir Toke Talangi and place on record our appreciation for the contribution he made to the advancement of Niue and the wider Pacific region. Sir Toke served as a Minister first and then dedicated Premier of Niue from 2008 to 2020, the second longest serving Premier in Niue's history. Over this 12-year period, he made a serious contribution to Niue's progress, including by serving as Niue's Foreign Minister. He was deeply respected across the Pacific Islands region, shaping Niue's external engagement not only with New Zealand, but throughout the Pacific and around the globe. And his legacy within the Pacific Islands region includes establishing Niue as one of the founding members of the Polynesian Leaders Group.
State funeral arrangements for the former Premier, the late Sir Toke Talangi, are still in progress. According to the Director of Cabinet and Parliamentary Services, Christine Ioane, they are awaiting word from Cabinet and are working together with the Talangi family on the funeral arrangements. Meanwhile, as the family of the late Sir Toke Talangi and Niueans mourn the passing of the former Premier, norms on traditions and funeral arrangements have been impacted by COVID-19 restrictions. The Talangi family told BCN News every evening at 6 p.m. they are holding prayers at their home while in quarantine in the lead up to the completion on Sunday, July 26th. The family will then be able to hold the ala ala or traditional wake. This is an unusual extended time period of more than 2 weeks for a family to wait to bury a loved one. Usually, it will take about a week for a family to have the traditional mourning and arrange for the funeral. Family members from abroad will also not be able to attend the funeral of the former Premier due to COVID-19 restrictions. The family home has been cordoned off with a fence as a designated quarantine station. Daily evening prayer sessions are being conducted by a reverend from the Ekalesia outside the fence, with the Talangi family members sitting from a distance of 3 meters inside their compound. Those joining the nightly prayer vigil sit outside. Prior to their return from New Zealand on Sunday, July 12th, Cabinet had approved for Sir Toke and Lady Fifita to be quarantined at their residence at Whanokula for 14 days as required by the Public Health Act. While in quarantine, Sir Toke Talangi passed away on Tuesday, July 14th at the age of 69. Sir Toke Talangi will be laid to rest on Monday, July 27th. The new New Zealand High Commissioner Helen Tana is currently in quarantine on the island. Helen Tana arrived in Niue on Monday, July 13th and is undergoing the 14 days mandatory quarantine. The High Commission in Tāpeu had confirmed earlier that they expect to welcome Tana to Niue on the first available flight in July, whereupon she will complete the mandatory quarantine according to Niue's border control protocols. Deputy High Commissioner Nigel Eales will be acting High Commissioner until Tana has the opportunity to present her credentials to the Premier Delton Tagilangi. It's expected that one of her first official duties is to attend the state funeral of the late Sir Toke Talangi. And finally, suggestions have been made for a focal point of communications in government to ensure regular information is made public. This was the consensus by representatives from the private sector at a COVID-19 communications workshop held on Friday, July 17th. All participants agreed that there should be a position of communication person in government to ensure that regular information from government is made public, especially with the dissemination of information on COVID-19. The workshop was supported by the Pacific Media Assistance Scheme hosted by the Broadcasting Corporation of Niue, which focused on sharing of information around COVID-19 by key stakeholders and the media in efforts to keep the public informed. Chamber of Commerce Board Director Carl Pasisi shared sentiments of participants that there is much improvement needed in the coordination of information by authorities and to utilize online platforms such as a dedicated website on COVID-19. Fia Rex, also a Chamber board member, highlighted her experiences as one of the returning passengers in March, that there was no debriefing for their feedback as passengers on the process of quarantine and requirements. On the onset of COVID restrictions in Niue, there was also confusion around alert levels issued by the authorities as to what each level entailed for the people. Participants stated that there was more reliance on news from New Zealand on the coronavirus as the government held more regular press conferences and updates for the people. Bank manager of Niue Development Bank and Kiwi Bank, Wayne McCaugan, commended BCN for hosting the workshop. He says a first of its kind they have been invited to discuss the impacts of COVID-19 and share ideas as stakeholders. Chamber of Commerce Acting Business Development Manager presented the wage subsidy. During this unusual time of the pandemic, the private sector is depending on government's wage subsidy to ensure they survive this economic downturn, awaiting the decisions of the government as to when the borders will reopen. According to the Chamber, 60% of local businesses are tourism-based. 30% of businesses have been in business for more than 10 years, which means majority of Niue businesses are still in its infancy. In addition to the wage subsidy, which includes migrant workers living and working in Niue, some businesses have had to be innovative and creative in diversifying their businesses during these times. Local entrepreneur and board member of the Chamber of Commerce, Glenn Jackson, had also presented on his new e-commerce business, partnering with Canadian multinational e-commerce company Shopify to establish an online platform for Niuean products, which he is now also extending to other Pacific Island businesses to sell on his platform called New Market. And that's your BCN News for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Do join us same time tomorrow. Until then, have a safe evening.